Hi there, Dr. Brad here from drellisor.com, Kids Eating Broccoli podcast. For today's episode, we're talking about if my bacteria are mad, my brain is sad, and if my guts are leaking, then my brain doesn't work right. And what do drugs have to do with it? So in prior episodes, we've talked a little bit about what it means to say someone has a leaky gut. So just the very, very quick version of that is that our gut lining, let's back up. So our digestive system is a tube from mouth to the other end. Through that tube, we have the esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, other structures too, but those are the main big ones. And so in the small intestine, large intestine, we do most of the food absorption and our nutrients absorption and all that kind of stuff. And so along those walls, we have these little finger-like projections all over the place, all around the insides. And even on those fingers, there's other finger-likes, and then on those, there's little tiny fingers. So these tiny microscopic finger-like projections. And they're covered by what we could look at as like a net or a cheesecloth, so that only certain things can make their way through once they've been digested to small enough. When we have leaky gut, that's like there's a hole in that net or cheesecloth, and stuff that's too big that normally wouldn't make it in now goes into our bloodstream because there are holes in this protective lining. So that's kind of the short version. That leads to a whole cascade of problems because now we have oversized food particles making it into the bloodstream. Our immune system fires off against that, leads to a lot of issues. Chronic systemic inflammation, autoimmunity is a big one also. So now how does this happen? We've talked about certain chemicals and toxins in foods irritating and destroying that lining. But if we go in one level deeper into that, what we find that cheesecloth really is, or a big part of how it works, is it's in concert with our microbiome, or in other words, the bacteria that live within our digestive system. Because you may not know, but we have 100 trillion microbes in our body. So, and most of those live in our digestive system. So microbes mean not just bacteria, fungus, viruses, some other stuff in there too. So when everything is going right, when we're eating a proper diet and we have a good, healthy microbiome in our digestive system, those very bacteria and other stuff, mostly bacteria, in large part actually have many jobs. One of those is to help us digest our food. So they help break down a lot of the food particles, food stuff, so that we can use it. But what they also do in that process is they create chemicals and substances that actually feed those cells that make up that cheesecloth or that netting that's on the inner lining of our digestive system. So what can happen a lot of times when we have a leaky gut situation, how that was caused, was that we had a dysbiosis, it's called, or a imbalance occur in our gut microbiome, and we've insulted or injured or caused for overgrowth, or there's a whole bunch. You can have too little, you can have too much. It's really about having the right balance, a fine balance that's actually normal and natural, except when we start injuring and damaging our microbiome. But then once we do that, now the cells of our intestinal lining are not healthy anymore. And then they're much more easily attacked or damaged by these other foodstuffs or chemicals or artificial products that get into our system. So the other thing about that cheesecloth is there's a lot of stuff that puts tears in it. They find that like gluten in most cases puts tears in it. A lot of chemicals in our food puts tears in it. So you might think, well, why doesn't everybody have autoimmune disorders and systemic inflammation? Now, yes, autoimmune disorders, inflammatory problems are sharply on the rise. So a lot of people do. But the reason it doesn't happen to everybody is because we will eat that stuff and we'll get those tears in the netting, but then our body will repair them if things are healthy. But if our gut microbiome is out of balance and we're not getting the right nutrients to those special cells that make up that lining, then we can't repair before the next insult comes. So it's kind of like you can either eat those things seldomly and have a healthy bacterial population and be fine, or you can eat them often and cause damage and insult that you can't keep up with, and then compounded on that is a imbalanced or improper microbiome. Now, these days, probiotics as supplements are like the hot thing, right? You can find those everywhere. Find them at Safeway and Walmart or wherever. Also supplement stores online, all that kind of stuff. But is it really the best idea to be supplementing with probiotics? Do they do anything? Are they beneficial or are they detrimental? And there's no one answer to this, but based on what I've been studying, sort of the leading cutting edge of understanding of the gut bacteria and the digestive system and the second brain, which is our gut, it would seem to me that in most cases, most of the time, if you're taking probiotic supplements, you're probably not doing harm, but not really benefiting either. So we'll get into that a little deeper, and when are the right times and opportunities to take a probiotic supplement, because there are very specific circumstances where it's the right idea. But just as a general everyday kind of thing, you're likely throwing your money away, and in some cases causing for a greater imbalance in that normal system. Because here's the truth: we get inoculated with our intestinal flora when we're born, and it pretty much stays with us our whole lives, unless we do things to throw it out of balance. So that's the deal. And I also mentioned that we're going to talk about what drugs have to do with it. So what drugs have to do with it is that a lot of drugs that we take, that we're given, and that we give to pregnant women and babies also do a lot to destroy and throw out of balance our microbiome. And so we're seeing this huge rise in autoimmunity, and we're also seeing this huge rise in the amount of drugs and medications that we give to our young people. And so when we have this gut microbiome imbalance leading to a leaky gut situation, causing systemic inflammation, causing brain inflammation, we see with our kids that a lot of times what ends up happening is that they have symptoms that we call ADHD, so inattention and hyperactivity, difficulty sleeping, difficulty waking, aren't cooperative with their teachers, and then we give them drugs. But those drugs actually tend to cause for a greater imbalance in our gut microbiome, and they're taken on a regular basis. So you're constantly insulting and attacking and imbalancing your gut microbiome. And so that's what drugs have to do with it. And then the last piece that I wanted to mention today, and then I'm going to hop off, is that in a lot of circles with kids with on the autism spectrum and ADHD and some different problems, they'll do blood tests and find they're deficient in vitamin B6 and B12 and magnesium and vitamin D and all these things. And so we'll start supplementing with those. And while in the short term supplementing can help because we're malnourished in these vital nutrients, the truth is that's all indication of gut ill health or poor health of the gut. And that if we don't correct that problem, that we will always have insufficiency, because a lot of the B vitamins we need are produced by our gut bacteria if they're in the right proportions. A lot of mineral absorption happens because the gut bacteria are healthy and functioning right. And so when we see these deficiencies, in most cases, at least in the Western world where people typically have enough food, the problem isn't that somehow their body is dysfunctional and they just don't get them, or that, like from birth, or that they're not getting them through their food supply. The problem typically is that the gut microbiome is out of balance, and so they're not able to absorb. It's like a malabsorptive problem. So again, you have to correct that gut microbiome, correct that leaky gut, so that the body can start absorbing these nutrients properly, so that it can be healthy and brain can function properly and our hormone balances can be correct. So I hope that was helpful. I think it's fascinating diving deeper and deeper into the digestive system, the gut, because so much of what we do or don't do dietarily and eating and nutrition for ourselves and with our kids plays a direct impact on how our digestive system functions. And we know that our digestive system is the second brain, and so we're interacting with that nervous system function. And when our digestive system and gut is way out of balance, it throws everything off in our system, and we're like, gas pedal, brake pedal, gas pedal, and we can't function well, we can't think properly, we're chronically inflamed, and we see that in our kids in record numbers these days. All right, you guys take care. This is Dr. Brad signing off. We'll see you next time.